I'm in front of a busy and loud Apple store in downtown San Francisco to explain why Steve Jobs is Fortune magazine's Businessman of the Decade. It seems pretty obvious when you look at a store like this right now. There's 275 of them around the world, by the way, how successful Apple is. But it wasn't always that way. Just at the beginning of this decade, Apple was in the doldrums. This was before the iPod, before iTunes, before the iTunes Music Store, before the iPhone, before the Apple stores. It was a completely different story for Apple. 2001 was the key year for Apple. The previous year, the company had missed financial estimates. The stock plunged as low as 7 in today's prices. But that was the year that Steve Jobs was planning everything that would come to be so important for the company that we know today. In 1 year, Apple launched iTunes on the Mac. It launched the OS X, the operating system that was key to Apple's redevelopment. It opened its first 2 stores, and it introduced the first iPod. What's astounding when you think about it is just how many industries Steve Jobs has had a hand in transforming radically. At the dawn of this decade, he already was an important, if flawed, character in the computing industry. But by the end of the decade, he had had a major role in transforming film, cell phones, and music. Jobs was the controlling shareholder of Pixar, which was sold to Disney in 2006 for more than $7 billion, making him a billionaire many times over. It changed the way animation was done. In music, the record industry had tried over and over to have a music player, to have a way for people to buy music online. Nothing worked until the iTunes Music Store came around, and that was all Steve Jobs. And finally, with the iPhone, smartphones have existed for several years. Everyone wanted to know when Apple was going to do one. It finally did with the iPhone beginning in 2007. Now everybody's chasing Apple. That has led to other innovations such as the App Store, where Apple has very successfully created a place where people can download apps, most of them free, some of them for money, little of which Apple gets, but all of which helps Apple sell iPhones and iPod Touches. One last point that's important to make is what all of this has meant to the rejuvenation of the original product of Apple, which is the computer. The Macintosh is having a renaissance. Its market share is moving up. It's extremely profitable for Apple, and yet Apple doesn't need to rely on the Macintosh to drive its profits or to drive the company.